Hello, everyone. John Breithaupt here. Um, I did my board binder assignment for Chippewa Watershed Conservancy. CWC is a 501c3 nonprofit conservation organization who protects wildlife habitat and open space in the counties of the Chippewa River watershed, which is in central Michigan. It's based out of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and its service area includes Clare, Gratiot, Mecosta, Montcalm, and Isabella counties. The organization has also agreed to take on certain projects in Osceola County, but currently does not work in there. So just to give you kind of an overview of the table of contents for my board binder, I've got the history, mission, and vision. There's currently no values established organizationally from the Conservancy. I think that'll change in next year's strategic plan, but there are none available yet. I've got some info about the organization, staff and board member roster, schedule of board and committee meetings, information on finances, recent grants awarded, 2016 and 15 financial statements, which are the two most recent ones. Got the current operating budget in there, expectations for board members and board member values, and then as you can see, a series of board policies listed in alphabetical order. All the policies, financial statements, anything with a bullet point is the sub-tab, so that'll come underneath one of the main tabs. Of course, we've got the bylaws here, the current 3-year strategic plan, which runs from 2016 to 2018 and will thus expire at year end. I've also got the committee structure and the articles of incorporation with information about the 4 flagship nature preserves, which are regional conservation areas and outdoor recreation destinations in the central Michigan area. So, diving into the history, Conservancy was officially incorporated in 1985. The name was changed from Isabella County Nature Conservancy to Chippewa Watershed Conservancy in 2001 to reflect an expansion in the service area from 1 to 5 counties. First professional staff was hired in January of 2004. Until then, it was an all-volunteer organization. Right now, there are 3 staff members, and a 4th one is currently being interviewed for. That position should start by mid-July. The Conservancy protects natural resources using predominantly 3 different mechanisms. First one is the most commonly used tool, and that is the conservation easement. It's essentially a legally binding agreement on private landscapes to protect land for a myriad of conservation values such as water quality, outdoor recreation, forest health, wildlife habitat, things of that nature. Various tax incentives are offered to private landowners in exchange for restricting development rights on their property in order to protect the natural resources that are on it. It also acquires 20 nature preserves. It's got 22 right now. The Conservancy buys those for bargain sale prices, almost always below market value, and also accepts donated lands to turn those properties into nature preserves. And then I said there was 3 mechanisms. The third one is used sparsely, but that is what's called government transfer. And certain times the Conservancy will step in times where urgency is important, or to facilitate some sort of complicated transaction where it acquires land and then donates it to a local government or state government entity to be managed as a public park or forest. So describe the mission, service area. Got some of the different vision items here as well. So a little more detail on the organization information tab. The habitat, focus, and priority lands are the criteria used for CWC to evaluate projects. It can't take on every conservation project it's fronted with, though it would like to. But you can see here riparian lands, which are lands on bodies of water such as the Chippewa, Coldwater, and Pine rivers, rare threatened habitats like mature hardwood forests, bogs, and marshes, large-scale projects that protect open space and farmland. And then the priority lands are things adjacent to already protected lands, and then lands at risk of high development. A little more detail about easements, some of the different tax advantages offered at the state and federal level, and then just some information about nature preserves at the bottom. Conservancy also is a player in the realm of environmental education and hosts a variety of offerings primarily for adults, but it's looking to get into the outdoor education realm for children as well in the near future. So here we have the staff and board roster. We've got the staff towards the top, got contact information, email, work phone, cell phone number, address. Same thing for the board members. It's kind of organized by position, broadly at the top, and then loosely towards the bottom. We've got the terms here as well. Currently, the Conservancy has no term limits on its board of directors. Some people support it, most don't on the board, and so when you're talking about changing the bylaws, that requires, I think, a 2/3 vote on the board. That's something that's a challenge to alter. So, schedule of meetings. Third Tuesday of every month is when board meetings are held. So there's actually one held tomorrow, June 19th. They run from 6 until about 8 p.m. at the Conservancy's office, which is located in the Hersey House in downtown Mount Pleasant. So scrolling down, we've got information on the Relationships Committee meetings, which are the second Tuesday of the month. And the Lands Committee and Governance Committee are two of the other flagship committees of the Conservancy. Those are working to establish more regular meetings, either monthly or bi-monthly, but right now it's kind of at the whim of the chairperson, which is something that ought to be gotten away from in terms of a practice. Finances, just some examples of recent grants awarded in the last 8 to 10 months. Everything from $500 grants up to $120,000 grants, and kind of everything in between. Talks about the partner who funded the grant, the amount, and what it was used for. Board member expectations and values, pretty self-explanatory. 11 expectations of all board members who join the Conservancy, and 10 values on which they are essentially held accountable to by the president of the board of directors. Policies, again, just kind of got a table of contents just of the policies on the landing page here for aesthetic purposes. I've got subtabs in alphabetical order as previously mentioned for all of the policies. It's a requirement of the Conservancy strategic plan to have no policies older than 5 years, and so annually, usually 3 to 5 policies, give or take, are updated and reviewed and altered as necessary. The Governance Committee oversees that. It also oversees board recruitment, which is kind of a loose practice and something that is being transformed and it'll become more of a written procedure because it's required by the Land Trust Alliance, which is the national accrediting body for all land conservancies in the United States. And so that'll hopefully streamline things and hopefully help get board term limits in place in the coming months or possibly years. We've got the bylaws here. You can see when they're adopted, which was 1994, the year I was born. They're on average about every couple of years they get revised. Got all the standard stuff here required by Michigan state law: name and organization, purposes, directorship. Scrolling down, there's more information about officers. It talks about the executive director and how the board may hire an executive director who will oversee staff and the day-to-day operations of the organization. Strategic plan, again, expires at year end, so we're in the early stages of of starting the strategic planning process for the 2019 through 2021 plan. It's pretty limited strategic plan, but pretty much gets to the point. It's got the mission, vision, service area, and then there's 6 different categories for strategic goals related to land protection, land stewardship, membership, organizational type things, financial resources, and building relationships with regards to environmental education and public outreach of the organization. Committee structure dives into the different committees. Principally, there's the Executive Committee, Relationships Committee, Governance Committee, and Lands Committee, as it's known as. And you can see in this structure, in this organizational document, there's a variety of subcommittees, but due to unnecessary bureaucracy that can be created by having these subcommittees meet, and also limited time constraints by board members, the endeavors of these groups are usually absorbed by the parent committee of them, which tends to work better for staff and board, I think. Kind of just delves into the charges, responsibilities, who can be a member. The committees make recommendations to the board. They don't officially vote on anything. They don't make major determinations without consent of the board. Articles of incorporation. This is a document. Whoops. It kind of popped out there. Sometimes it does that, sometimes it doesn't. It's a little weird, but you can insert PDFs into live binders, and sometimes it works well and they become embedded, and sometimes they pop out like this. But pretty standard document issued by the Michigan Department of Commerce for any 501c3 nonprofit. And last but not least, we've got information about the 4 flagship nature preserves owned by the Conservancy. Kind of a little landing page here for the table of contents. We've got Audubon Woods Preserve, Bundy Hill Preserve, Halls Lake Natural Area, and Sylvan Solace Preserve. All 4 are in Isabella County. And this is actually a link to the webpage, which is kind of cool because it's updated in real time. And so it's got all the pertinent information for board members and staff members to learn about the properties. Brief summary of what you might find there. Lots of different photos, directions of the property trail, and property maps. And pretty much everything you need. You can even see upcoming events right here on this column, which is kind of nice. It shows 3 at a time, excuse me. And then recent posts, which is like essentially a blog on the homepage for the Conservancy's webpage. So all in all, a good tool. Hoping to keep this thing updated, and I think it'll be a great tool for staff, board, and even prospective board members or staff members. So thank you very much.